through a quick overview of the Framework AI platform, which is really one unified platform for a suite of AI tools from chat to a full workshop to build AI-based workflow automations and AI agents to boost productivity. There's so much we could show you in this platform. This is just a brief overview and is not intended to be a training or how-to guide by any means. So the first thing I want to show you is the basic chat functionality. Most of us have used LLMs for chat-based uh, functions in our experience so far today. Where this really differentiates and excels is in two key areas. The one is security. When you're using a tenant on the Framework AI platform, your data is secured to only your tenant. It is not shared back to the LLM for training data, etc. And it has SOC 2, Type 2, and 3 compliance, as well as a number of other kind of compliance frameworks to back the validity of the security behind the product. So this is really critical when you're using generative AI chat that you have a secure platform protecting your sensitive data and that it's not at risk of ending up in third-party unauthorized hands. So that is a key element of this and a big advantage of why you need a generative AI tool that is centrally controlled by the company and is secured appropriately to protect your sensitive information and sensitive information of key stakeholders within your organization. The other element that's really unique about the chat in the Framework AI platform is that you have access to 50 of the large language models, of the most notable ones out there. So I won't go through all of them, but just to quickly kind of highlight, you have access to the Anthropic models, the OpenAI models, the Google models, Amazon models, as well as the Facebook models. Further down the list here, the meta models are there as well. So you've got a whole lot of LLM models here. And if you're only familiar with using one based on your prior experience, I'll just quickly touch on why that is important, because you may not know this yet. Different LLMs have different strengths and weaknesses and a couple core differences. So for example, each LLM has a limit of how much information it can intake up front and how much information it can output, for example. So for certain requests in chat or certain use cases for a workflow or an agent, different LLMs might be needed to facilitate that request due to the size and due to other considerations, such as does it require advanced reasoning? Does it need to excel at vision? Does it need to excel at image generation? Is speed of returning an output important for this task? Well, each LLM is stronger and weaker in each of those areas that I highlighted and has different capacity for inputs and outputs. And so it's very important to have access to and be able to leverage the most appropriate LLM for each task. Later, when I kind of dive into workflows and agents, this will also become very relevant because in a workflow, for example, we may pick different LLMs for different steps in the workflow so that we can play on their respective strengths. The other thing I want to note about the chat is the access to tools. So down here in my chat window, you see the little tools drop down. I'm going to go ahead and pick that. There are some built-in tools. They're always there. A few of those are AI-based search capabilities with Perplexity, Tavily, Exa, Firecrawl, etc., um, as well as typical Google search. There's also Python code interpreter, which is important when you are using and manipulating, say, spreadsheet data, etc. So that's a core tool as well. And then there's this really neat tool called Hat's Workshop Assistant that I will come back to in a moment because this is a very powerful tool that has greatly reduced the complexity and time required to build fully functional AI-based workflows and agents. And it's a huge advantage of this platform that it has this native capability that streamlines that process. But again, I'll come back to that one in a moment. In terms of other tools, there is about, I think at this time, around 80 major software as a service enterprise applications already in the platform with native integrations, meaning you do not need to mess with setting up a custom API integration. So we've got, all the major ones in here from G Suite, Microsoft, LinkedIn, Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, Salesforce, on and on, right? Go down this list. Again, you'll see a lot of SaaS applications you're probably familiar with, and you'll no doubt see some that your organization is using today. So these are native integrations or tools available within the platform. There is an ability as you get into maybe further along in your journey and you're past that crawl and walk and you're ready to run, where you may want to do some custom integrations. This does have the ability to accommodate that through API access to other software. However, they're always expanding this list of native integrations. So that is something I wanted to note as well. So that's the quick gist of the chat. Um, Probably one last thing that's worth noting is, they've already put some capability in here to help you narrow down what LLMs are appropriate based on category, or advanced, ones that work best with those tools I just highlighted, ones that are strong at reasoning, fast, vision, and image generation. So you don't have to be the expert at all things LLM and which is best for which task. You can use kind of this pre-built guidance mechanism to help you select an LLM that's appropriate for your prompt requests or for your workflow or agent, etc. Another thing I'll quickly note is that if you have agents available in the platform, you can find them right here, right from chat, and select an agent you want to use. I will again touch on this a moment, but Framework has built out a standard suite of agents and workflows that are available to all of our clients upon request. We can push it over to your tenant. And we're really focused on building out very common use cases applicable to most businesses that don't require deep customization or anything of that nature, so that our clients can quickly use more advanced tools beyond just chat to automate parts of their workflow, increase quality of output, etc. So again, I'll come back to that in a moment, but you can access the agents right here from within the chat window. The next thing I want to highlight is the workshop. The workshop is essentially where you build workflows and agents. So initially, most people, they hear a workshop, they hear build your own workflow or agent. It sounds very intimidating. And just a year ago, I would have agreed with you. It is very intimidating. It is very complex. And just to illustrate that point quickly, I'm just going to go click to start a new workflow in this workshop. And I'm going to show you something you'll probably never look at again, and I'll tell you why. So here's the back-end builder in the workshop. It's very visual. It's not all that hard to use, but to use it well, you have to be decent at prompting, because you sit there and you kind of map out your workflow and you can add all these steps, but you have to still design these intelligent prompts. You have to determine, what are the user inputs? What are we going to ask of the user before we run this workflow? What are constants that we need to consider? Files or particular pieces of information that are always in a constant state in the back end. And are there any files or things that need to be attached and referenced along the way? And you can build out very complex workflows with this. But nonetheless, that builder can feel, I'll say, a bit intimidating to come into a blank screen, and then you have to figure out each prompt along the way and really very logically kind of think through this to build that out. And that's really where things were not that long ago. Just to illustrate the potential complexity of a workflow, I'm just going to quickly highlight one that I built before. Some of the tools I'll cover in a moment were there to streamline this process. So the idea of this workflow is, I basically have the user input about 30 answers to questions that are relevant to building out a complete sales playbook with target client profile, persona canvases, value messaging canvases, etc. So I built this workflow, again, ask about 30 questions of the user, maybe takes 30 minutes or an hour to fill out very thoroughly, but then it runs a very complicated workflow. And I can't even fit it all on screen, just it's quite complicated, but it starts building the target client profile, then it builds persona canvases for each person, builds value messaging canvases, value proposition statements, and what have you, and ultimately works its way down to eventually outputting a final sales playbook. In some of the tests we've ran with this, it is a very thorough playbook, 200-page sales playbook. So great resource if you don't have a sales playbook or if it's very incomplete or weak at the moment. Now, I mentioned that still was a lot. If you look at the workflow example I gave you, albeit it was a complicated one, imagine building that out. That took a lot of time to work out the prompts in each step and kind of get it all configured and set right. Well, since then, some really neat native capabilities have come into the platform that I kind of alluded to earlier that have made building in this tool so much easier. So I'm going to go back to chat to illustrate what I'm talking about here. I referenced the HATS AI Workshop Assistant tool and said I'll come back to this in a moment. What this tool is that you can just select and attach, and now it's attached to this chat, is if I write out some high-level process that I'm looking to build, say, a workflow for, and I say, I want to build a workflow for this process. Here's the process. Maybe I just kind of put my standard operating procedure that I have into the chat. The HATS Workshop Assistant, as long as there's adequate information provided, will automatically build the workflow and the agent for you. So what that effectively did was takes building in the workshop from requiring, I would say, intermediate, maybe at least prompting skills, probably too difficult for most beginners, right? To go in and do it from scratch, it allowed beginners to actually build functional workflows or agents very quickly. So HATS came out with this tool a few months ago. HATS is the company that built this platform, by the way, that Framework is building it on top of. And they came out with this tool, and it has been absolutely a game changer. The speed at which you can build very thorough and very functional workflows using and agents using that tool is just incredible. So it's truly game changer in and of itself on its own. Framework took that a little bit further and built a few additional tools to help you get ready with your idea kind of fully fleshed out so that it's ready to build the highest quality agent or workflow using the HATS Workshop Assistant tool. So I'll kind of cover these in the order of the way I would actually use them. So the first is we built an agent for use case and ROI analysis. So I select this agent here. Now, instead of using a regular LLM, I'm using an agent I've already built, the Framework AI Use Case Builder and ROI Analysis. Now, I won't run through all of this. It's not the point of this demo, but I'll just describe what this agent does. This agent is going to conversationally guide you, or like a leadership team, through a discussion to uncover use cases within your organization for Gen AI-based workflows and agents. It'll help you not just identify where you might be able to use it across various functions of your business, but it'll help you pin down whether it's low, medium, or high complexity to build. It'll help you map out the value of automating that process partially or fully with a workflow or agent. And then it ultimately, looking at both complexity and value, will help you build kind of a framework for prioritization, essentially kind of help you get off the ground of having like a roadmap of AI development in your organization that's intelligently prioritized. So that's step one. That's an additional tool Framework AI built. And that one's really important because what we found is a lot of people don't know what these tools are capable of. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. And so it's hard if you just go up to a random person in your company and say, hey, what could we automate in your job with AI-based automation? They're going to say, well, I'm not sure, probably for two reasons. One, they're worried it's going to take their job, which is often not the case. What it really does is free up people to do higher value work that's probably more rewarding, they're better suited for, and is higher value to the organization. Ultimately, it's an empowering tool for people more than it is a tool to just replace people. But the other piece of reason they're going to say, I don't know, I'll have to get back to you, is they don't know what it can do. They've used maybe ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is in their personal life, but they probably just used it to clean up some writing or to research something. They've never used it to automate a process before. And so it's really hard to imagine when you don't know what these things can do, ultimately what they can do. So building and identifying use cases is kind of step one. And you want to be intelligent about identifying use cases. You don't want to just go, hey, this is the most complicated, time-consuming process in our company. Let's start our AI journey there. There's a good chance that that's extremely difficult to automate effectively. It might be very complex. It might be very time-consuming and costly to build right. And so you don't want to start with the elephant, so to speak. You want to start with a bunch of the quick hit wins, low-hanging fruit that's low complexity to build and still provides good value in terms of improved quality of output, saving of time, etc. And I guarantee there's lots of use cases for that in every organization. So this use case agent is going to help you focus on that and then prioritize intelligently so you can rack up a lot of small wins first. Start seeing value, start seeing ROI, start better understanding what these tools are capable of, and then you can build up there from there into those more intermediate and high complexity use cases that might have massive value and kind of pay off to the organization. As I mentioned earlier, and I'll show you a little bit of the library that we've established already, we're trying to help clients expedite that journey. So we've built about 50 plus workflows or agents that can be used by any company. I'll come back to that in a moment. So that's the first part is the use case and ROI analysis. That starts pointing you in the right direction. After that, you have specific ideas you can work on. So another resource we built is this agent called Prompt Coach. Prompt Coach can be used to just refine a prompt you want to use in regular chat, or it can be used to actually refine your full set of instructions for a workflow or an agent. In other words, what I mean by that is you can take a kind of raw, not fully fleshed out idea. Let me just pick an example of one I've done. I wanted to build an agent that coaches salespeople, takes transcriptions of sales meetings and scores them, offers coaching and advice, etc. Kind of a self-service development tool or a tool that could also be used by managers. So when I started, I just had an idea that high level, let's say. I did not have a ton of depth and detail of what all goes into that. What I did, my process was to first research. I just went into chat, into an LLM, and I started researching best practices for evaluating a sales meeting for assessment and coaching, etc. Basically started with a large research project. I grabbed a lot of background information, and then I came over to this prompt coach agent that I'm talking about now. And I just explained, I'm looking to build an agent that is going to take meeting transcripts and it's going to offer some sales coaching and scoring, etc., based on this set of best practice research I've already compiled. I just pasted in this raw research. It was messy, it was unorganized, it was by no means ready to be a agent or a workflows system instructions, just to be clear. The prompt coach, this agent, what it's actually trained on is the best practices for successful prompting as well as intermediate and advanced prompting techniques. So it knows the things that advanced prompt engineers know, essentially. It took all that raw information and it's going to come back and it's going to first help me refine my idea. It's going to ask a bunch of clarifying questions. Say, hey, you're at a great place, cool idea, great concept, very useful background information you provided thus far, but we need to flesh out first some basics. Tone, style, I want to be very clear on the purpose of this agent, the outputs you're looking for from this agent, etc. On top of that, it makes recommendations. It says, okay, based on this, my understanding of the purpose and what you're trying to do and how you've answered my questions thus far, I have some recommendations to improve the user experience, the functionality or capability aligned still to its original purpose, and to make it just all work better ultimately and be easy to use, right? As another key criteria. So Prompt Coach is natively instructed to always help you improve. It will offer some prompting tips along the way. So it's got a little bit of education sprinkled in, but it's very much a tool to use kind of in production in your process of building in this platform. It's going to help you, again, clarify your idea, develop that into more specific prompt or instructions. It's going to make recommendations to improve it all along the way. Your original vague idea, it's going to basically help you narrow it down to a fully fleshed out idea. In fact, it's going to finally at the end turn over and hand you a full set of instructions that are entirely ready to then go and use that Hacks Workshop Assistant tool to attach it, drop the instructions we worked out in with Prompt Coach into that tool, and it builds a fully functional workflow or agent then within a few minutes of kicking off that process. At that point, you're ready to start testing and going through kind of validation testing. You may make some iterative improvements, of course, to the instructions, which you may have guessed. You can just come back into Prompt Coach and say, hey, here's my current set of instructions. I want to make these adjustments. And you don't, when I say make these adjustments, You're just describing it high level in layman's terms, in plain English. You're not telling it specifically what you want to change in the configuration of the instructions. Prompt Coach will go ahead and modify the instructions based on your raw feedback, which you can then put back into your workflow or agent to iteratively improve it. So again, that might feel like a lot. Somebody that's new to the platform, I'll remind you again, this is not a training video. This is just a quick overview. I'm trying to illustrate the power of the platform. So the takeaway, I guess, from this is forget the specific agents and tools because we can review all of that during the implementation and training. The idea is that between what HATS has in the platform natively and some additional tools Framework has developed in the platform that any client can have access to, we have streamlined the process to go from identify use cases to build functional workflows and agents ready for test, ready for production. We've shrunk that down in terms of the time it takes. We've also drastically been able to cut down the level of skill it takes to the point where we are now confident that we can get any pretty beginner person to using generative AI to a point where they can actually build workflows and agents that free up time or increase the quality of outputs or add value in other ways to the organization. So really, really cool developments that have really allowed kind of the value to go exponential here. Honestly, it's really only limited at this point by your curiosity and your time to explore and develop those ideas. But again, even the time to develop the ideas is shrinking drastically. So now I want to touch on something I mentioned earlier was that Framework has started developing a suite of standard AI tools that we can share to any of our clients. And the idea of these tools is to, again, just offer immediate turnkey value. So over here in the workshop under my items, see a list of agents. They all start with Framework AI. That just kind of indicates it's one of our standard AI apps. It's not customized to a particular client. We are building these out so rapidly because of what I mentioned earlier at this point. We're able to kick out and validate about 5 to 10 a week. And that number is probably only going to grow. So I'm going to actually switch gears and pull up a spreadsheet view just so it's a little bit easier potentially to quickly cover. Here's the standard AI tools we have today. Again, there's over 50. I'm not going to list these all for sake of the video. I just want to touch on that it covers a broad range of things within a business. Some are very generic, very general, like the brainstorming partner helps you flesh out raw ideas into more thoroughly vetted ideas. Devil's advocate is an agent that kind of builds on that. It's going to pick apart your ideas and try to poke holes and identify risk, etc. Those two work really well hand in hand. We have an SOP writer agent that'll write very thorough standard operating procedures. Every business probably could use more of those. Or most of us would admit we don't have every single process documented as well as we'd like. Well, this really helps aid that, of course. We have a project plan architect, one that even facilitates EOS L10 meetings if you follow EOS management methodology, one that can be used to manage your frequently asked questions, to ask and retrieve the answers, but also to enhance and update and improve your answers as well. So that one's very, very useful, particularly for marketing and sales, but potentially for customer service as well. Let's see, we've got ones for writing policies, like your employment policies, your IT, cybersecurity policies, AI policies, etc. Business continuity and disaster recovery plans. Ones for HR, for post refining job descriptions, generating interview questions, analyzing candidates' resumes and any assessments they may have done. We have one that's a training and curriculum designer, so it can help you map out training curriculum for a role, or this actually could be part of a marketing thing you're doing potentially as well. And not only will help you map out curriculum, it can actually help you map out specific content. You could build on that with one that generates training quizzes to support that training material. One for career coaching, building professional development plans, performance improvement plans. Let's see, one for developing marketing plans, sales plans, one for managing a sales playbook. So I mentioned earlier workflow, to build one if you don't really have one. We also have one that'll help you manage one, meaning Again, it can ask and retrieve information about your sales playbook, but it can also be used to improve the quality and kind of curate and manage it over time. We have some to build out case studies, doing deep research on topics or trends, one for putting out updates to investors or boards. Again, there's about, let's see, we're 53 as of today. We have a few more kind of in under development right now, and it's advancing rapidly. So those are some of the standard apps that are already ready. These can be pushed out to your organization immediately. You can start getting value in those right away. And what's really cool is those standard AI apps that we've already built can easily be customized even more specifically to your business, actually, without too much work. So that's another neat thing. You don't have to start from scratch and rebuild what we kind of already built and then customize it to your business. You can take what we built and tweak it to your business, your process, your preferences fairly easily. So that's also a capability that's there. And then the last thing I do want to note is, Framework itself is building out a lot of standard tools for our clients, but there is a community of other companies like Framework that operate on this platform and provide this platform to their clients. And there are workflows and agents that are shared to the entire community. So me, let's say I go out and I build an agent, and I think this is really neat. A lot of businesses could benefit from this. I don't have any issue with sharing it with the world, essentially. I could publish it to the community. And what you're seeing here is a breakdown of categories so you can help sort through it because right here you'll notice the number of, they call it templates, but that means the number of workflows or agents that exist in each category. This list is growing very rapidly, much like the integrations. There are now hundreds of community shared workflows and agents. I'm not going to go into detail too much of what is here because there's a lot and it's growing rapidly. It'll change a lot, between the time of seeing this video and potentially logging into the platform for the first time. I cannot validate how well these specific ones work because there's too many for me to test myself across the board, and they were built by others. The ones we have tested generally say they do a pretty good job though. So it does seem like some quality work has been done there. There's probably not much harm in experimenting to see if some of the community apps really fit use cases for your organization and you're happy with the user experience and output. So there's a lot of tools to go beyond that basic chat function available to you basically on day one in the platform. So you can start not just gaining from, generative AI chat, but gaining from workflows and agents that can actually kick out quality work far faster than you'd be able to do on your own, freeing you and your team up for higher value, more rewarding task for the organization. So that's kind of a quick overview of the core capabilities within the platform. The last thing I'm not going to spend much time on is the AI phone agent. So that is a live talking agent where callers can have conversation. It's backed by a generative AI agent. You can, just like any other agent, customize its system configuration to guide what it does and offers and does not do and does not offer to the caller. So that capability exists as well, and it's pretty robust. So those are kind of the core features. Again, you've got secure chat, access to all the LLMs, all the major ones at least, I should say, all through one interface, one platform, one simple plan. The plan is not billed by users, so that makes it very easy to roll it out to everybody that could benefit from it in the organization without worrying about a per user subscription cost. The plans are really just built around how many tokens or credits you're able to use in a given period. And the billing is designed to be very simple and straightforward. There's no usage-based billing or overage billing or anything like that. So it's very easy to budget and plan for. You can provide it to everyone in the organization. They can all have access to that secure chat on day one. On top of that, everybody, with your permission, I didn't touch on this, but there's the ability to, of course, limit security permissions in the platform as to what your team is able to do and not do within the platform. But everybody you want to have access can also have access to the workshop tools, to those standard agents that Framework and others have built and workflows, etc. And then you can, of course, appoint access within your organization for people to go build their own workflows and agents as well. So ultimately, that's a high level overview of the platform. Framework is really here to support clients' journey. We have an implementation process we'll take you through to one, start by building your onboarding and enablement roadmap for AI. That kind of spans from making sure you've got good policies and governance in place to going through what I'd call the crawl, walk, run journey. That's really the order, high level that you want to adopt and implement AI. Again, you don't dive into the hardest things first. Master kind of the crawling functions, work your way up, start walking, start leveraging automation, etc., and then run. Start building yourself as fast as you can kind of imagine it. And that's where things will get really, really exciting. It's really an incredible technology. Kind of the more you advance at it, the more you feel this explosion in your mind of endless possibilities that are out there. And it's just been so impactful for us internally, having been using this technology for a while and this platform specifically for quite a while now. We've been able to eliminate so much low value work in our organization and focus people on things that are more rewarding, high value. And we're really excited to bring clients along on that journey at this point. So thank you. Hopefully this was informative. Again, happy to do a far more in-depth demonstration. Even can talk through, of course, specific ideas and use cases any potential client may have. So that's it for today. Thank you all. Look forward to talking in the future.